Okay, we are live. Councilman Swirsky, are you ready?
All right. Yes. I don't see it. Any problem?
Public Utilities and Green Committee.
Take it away, Rich.
Oh, I'm chairing it?
I believe you are.
Oh, I don't know if I'm not up to that. It said on the thing, Russ Neal chair.
Actually, Mike Freeman.
Who is Mike? Mike, will you chair it, please?
Oh, sure.
I should have talked to you about it.
No, is there any problem with that, Sarah?
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, then. All right. I'd like to call the Public Utilities and Green Committee meeting to order. And if we could please have a roll call.
Sure. Swirsky.
Here.
Freeman.
Here.
Honor.
Here.
Samples.
Here.
Detroit.
Here.
All committee members are present.
Very good. We have a couple items here. The first item is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service, after public advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for planting of trees in connection with Akron Waterways Renewed program and declaring an emergency. And I believe we just got a report on this morning as well. So who's going to be speaking to us, please?
I think I will, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Welcome back, Mr. Swirsky, again. This is our annual 2-for-1 replacement program for mostly street trees. So this is a 3-year contract. This will allow us to plant 1,500 trees in 21, 22, and 23. And also with our AWR program, we give away approximately 300 trees a year to residents at our Blue Heron event. So those trees will be purchased through this program also. So we have planted, since 2016, we've planted about 5,000 trees all over the city. That's in addition to what we've done up in the watershed. Up in the watershed, they've planted 23,000 seedlings since 2012. So this is the 2-for-1 program, like you mentioned in the legislation. And with that, I will take any questions.
Okay, we'll open up to the committee for any questions for Mr. Ludell. Comments? Mr. Swirsky.
Well, we got a study this morning, and I haven't had a chance to go through it all. But I mean, overall, I'm really excited. It seems really terrific that we're kind of comprehensively looking at our tree population and trying to manage it and elevate it in a positive way. So I don't know. I mean, Mr. Hardy, do you want to talk about some of the highlights of the study? Or I guess I assumed you were going to show us some stuff, or if not, that's okay.
I absolutely can. Mr. Chairman, is that all right?
Please do.
All right. Let me see if this actually works here. Can everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
So just real briefly, this is the executive summary of the full report that I sent to you, but long story short, it had been about a decade since we'd taken a look at our urban forest, which we lovingly refer to as the tree canopy. So that area of the city, which is shaded or coated in trees or foliage of some type. And so we commissioned a study with Davey Tree that took about 18 months. And all credit goes to John Malish, our incredible city arborist, and Michelle DeFiore from OID for spearheading that and for working with public service. But long story short, this is our key findings. We currently have a tree canopy coverage of just under 35%. This puts us actually not quite best in class, but sort of in the upper middle of the pack as it relates to mid-sized cities in the U.S. We also, just for your purposes, council members, we have ability to get to about 40%, but I'll talk about how we would do that and what it would take in a little moment here. We are just a shade, we're almost identical to the impervious surface that covers the city of Akron. So that would be roadways, parking lots, things that are, again, impervious. We have lost almost 2% of our tree canopy over the last decade or so. This is almost entirely due to the sewer project, which we anticipated. To the service director's point, that's why we have the legislation before you today in the 2-for-1 program. Just so you know, this percentage accounts for about 768 acres of canopy that we've lost over the last decade. So it seems like minimal, but it's actually pretty substantial. But here's the good news. We have incredible benefits of our current tree canopy, and I won't go through all of them, but needless to say, as we confront climate change and we think about ways in which we as a city can be better stewards of the environment, technology has yet to build something better than the tree in terms of cleaning the air and taking pollutants out and capturing carbon. It also does an incredible job, as I'm sure the service director can speak better than I can, at diverting stormwater away from our sewers and acting as a natural process as opposed to our larger gray projects that we've done throughout the city. And so, long story short, what I sent to you this morning is sort of the city strategy going forward, of which this piece of legislation is but one piece, although it is quite honestly the largest piece of our tree planting portfolio. We asked Davey Tree to go through a couple different scenarios. One would be basically we don't do anything different. We just keep doing what we're doing. And what we found is that we will continue to lose trees steadily over several years to the point of essentially it'll run its course, right? We'll get down to a point where there are very little tree canopy left in the city if we don't do anything. If you look at scenario 4, which is getting to that 40%, it would cost millions and millions of additional dollars the city really doesn't have. And we don't control private property, right? We can't tell a resident necessarily what they can and can't do, we feel, on their property when it comes to taking down a tree or things of that nature. And that's a significant portion of the city's land use. So what are we going to do? Well, we're proposing a middle ground. We want to stop losing tree canopy, which means the 2-for-1. We need to ramp up our planting a little bit more, but on a cost appropriate basis. So basically within our existing programs, we think we can get after this problem, prioritize public parks and the right of way, so street trees, and work with the tree commission that Councilman Swirsky and Councilman Fusco worked so hard to establish 2 years ago on programs in which we can encourage private property owners, businesses, and residents to either learn more about the benefits of a healthy urban forest, or as they take trees down on their property, how can they help us to either plant new ones on their property or sponsor a tree somewhere else. So we're going to work with them on expanding that program that the service director talked about, the free trees. We have some incredible corporate partnerships. First Energy has stepped up in a big way. We've already done a couple hundred trees with them in 2020. We're going to do a couple hundred more that they're paying for in 2021. And I'll stop there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm kind of hoping, we're still having discussion here. I'm kind of hoping maybe we can take a week and look at the report and then just come back next week. Any other questions or comments? All right.
I'm not sure if you can see Councilman Freeman. Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Okay, I cannot see him. Councilman Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Little, and thank you, Mr. Hardy. This report looks great. There's a wealth of information to dig into, and I think it's important as we, I think, go through lots of different issues, not to lose sight of the important work that is being done with regard to environmental issues and our water. And anyways, a specific question, just so I can understand it, and maybe 47 pages, I would understand it once I get a chance to read. But so if we've been doing, 2-for-1 replacement of trees that we take down, but the canopy has decreased by several percent over the last decade, largely due to the sewer project, is it because there was a large, removal of trees, early in the decade before we started doing 2-for-1? Is that right?
I mean, it's yes, and I would defer to the service director, but it's also, there's only so many trees we can plant in a given year based on budget and based on what contractors can do, which unfortunately is less than what we can take down all at once when we're doing a big project. So we've got some catching up to do. There's no question about it. And that's part of why we wanted to take a more strategic view of it. I would also say that, and point your attention as you read through, that we are taking an equity lens to this planting program. There are huge heat islands in the city and areas where there have not been tree plantings for quite some time. Wards 3, 4, and 5, parts of North Hill, parts of Goodyear Heights in particular, where we want to make sure that as we are planting and as we're trying to restore the canopy that we lost, or at least not lose any more, that we're doing so in an equitable way that increases air quality, brings the temperature down. These places are hotter in the summertime than other places of the city because of that. And so that's a quality of life issue, as well as asthma and other things that then play into it. So this is a long-winded way of saying that we want to prioritize on an equity basis, not necessarily just around where the sewer projects were. But Mr. Luddle, I'm not sure if you want to add to anything on that.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. I guess everybody is pretty familiar with the emerald ash borer disease that's gone through the city in recent years. So if I give you some numbers, or can give you some numbers, we lost over 500 trees to disease or dying trees in 16, 617, a little over 718, over 1,019, and last year it was around 600. So we have lost quite a few of diseased or dying trees. And from a personal note, as Mr. Hardy said, when you lose a tree, it adds to the heat. My own son lost his street tree a few years ago, which it protected the west sun. And he said his central air had to run a lot more because of that heat in the afternoon. Not that, I don't know if he was trying to give him money for First Energy, which I wasn't going to do, but I mean, it's a very good example. You get that afternoon sun and it's blocked by that tree. It definitely warmed up his house. So, but yeah, we've lost a lot to diseased or dying. And that's part of the whole master plan for tree planting, to try to get the right tree in the right spot in our city.
Thank you both. I just had a follow-up comment. I saw the priority based on equity map, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I know that obviously, I think Ward 8 is one where it's low priority given the coverage in trees, although there are obviously streets within that may have individual level concerns. I know, ironically, again, anecdotally, someone once pointed out to me that Treeside Drive in Ward 8 actually doesn't have a lot of trees. This is pretty open and it gets pretty hot in the summer. And, it's somewhat ironically named. So I guess one further comment I had was, as we were talking about the cell tower discussion an hour ago, this was an instance of talking about, views being obstructed for residents, and sort of it's largely about quality of life for residents. Perhaps there's an opportunity when it comes to some of those kinds of things to have, maybe a view is going to be obstructed, but that can be supplemented by, requiring, X percentage of X number of trees to be planted or something like that. It's just an idea, but I know that, to Mr. Hardy's point in the email, to grow our canopy or even to hold is going to require a lot of private, investment. And so maybe there are ways to, stimulate that obviously we don't want to give tax credits or things like that and further reduce our tax base, but maybe there are creative ways that we can continue to look at stimulating that.
Thank you, Mr. Malik. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I can see that Councilwoman Amobian has her hand raised.
Okay. Ms. Amobian.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You good. My question has to do with private property, and I think Mr. Hardy alluded to that. So when a person decides to cut down a tree on his or her property, how is the city notified of that? And do you get involved in that at all? Do they have to get a permit or anything?
I can't speak to the permit. Maybe Mr. Luddle can, but I can tell you that we're not involved in, there's no notification, if you will. So what we hope is to do this tree canopy update every 10 years. And that's where it would show up, which obviously is too late. So there are some communities that have passed local ordinances that get deeper into the issue on private property. We're not proposing that. We want to take an education and support angle first, and see if we can help through free trees, through education, through helping, creating programs where you can plant a tree in memorial of someone or in honor of someone in a city park, those types of things that we can augment the loss of trees on private property. But to my knowledge, there's no notification procedure, or we're not involved in any way in terms of someone wanting to take a tree down on their own property.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that we we should be involved, but I know if we're trying to save as many trees as possible within the city, I'm just wondering if there's a way to develop some kind of working relationship with the property owners. So maybe they are looking at a tree that could be diseased or somewhat diseased or whatever, and we may be able to step in and find out, is there a way for us to help them save the tree versus cutting it down or something? Just in thinking about, because I know I see in my neighborhood a lot when people are trimming trees or cutting them down, and you're always concerned about trees falling on your house and so forth. So I was just curious as to how that relationship is working.
I think that it's a challenging one right now, but it's one that, again, I hope that with the tree commission, providing ideas and input, we can stimulate education and other programs to try and help folks to understand that, hey, sometimes you got to take that tree down or you got to make some decisions. But overall, this is the benefit to having a healthy urban forest, and help us to keep that going, even if you can't do it on your own lawn.
Sure. Thank you.
Sarah, do you see anybody else that I might be missing? Yes, Ms. Connor.
A question for Mr. Hardy. Goodyear Heights has a long history of having a lot of fruit trees. Are we going to look at fruit trees when we talk about replacing trees? Not only for the vegetation, but for the need for just people to have access to fresh fruit?
I would invite Mr. Luddle to chime in as well, but my understanding is that that's absolutely something we could look into and make sure that we're replacing and or planting accordingly. So we'll follow up with you on that. That's good to know.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into that. Councilwoman Connor, sometimes in this, I think we had some in Ward 10, but I know we had some in Ward 2 off Independence. They planted thorn apple trees on the lawn strip. Well, with those thorns and people, moving about, it actually caused a hazard. Okay. So, but we could definitely look into some fruit trees, especially when we're doing the giveaway for the AWR project. Absolutely, for private property. We can look at that.
In the history of the Heights, when Warren Manning designed it, there were fruit trees in every yard, front or back, usually pears and apples. And we believe there was at one time a nursery for those trees over by the park on Malaysia Street.
Wow.
So
Nice.
Fruit trees have a long history in the Heights.
Nice.
Thank you. Mr. Swirsky.
I just want to second what Ms. Connor is saying. And fruit trees would be very, very popular, I think, throughout the city. And so it's good if we can integrate that into our choices of trees that we're distributing.
I think that's so interesting, and I appreciate you both bringing that up. I just want to underscore one thing that the service director talked about, which is our city arborist and the work that he does. We are not planting the same old trees, right? So we really do take into account, especially on the street trees that are appropriate size and growth patterns, so that we're not tearing up sidewalks as much as we used to do when we planted street trees, 20, 30 years ago, more willy-nilly. We're really taking an intentional and thoughtful approach to the types of trees, where they go, and making sure that they truly are seen as valuable by as many people as possible.
And whoever's council person 20 years from now will thank you for that, because they'll They'll now be getting phone calls about sidewalks being heaved. Yes, Mr. Swirsky.
I have a great pear tree in my backyard. We bought it Aldi like 20 years ago. It's huge. I think I gave some to Shamus. Yes, he'll attest. And so next year, all of you, please remind me, and I'll try and I'll get you a bag of them, and I won't charge you.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? If we could maybe just refer this for a week, would that be okay? Would that? Okay.
Sure.
Have a motion to refer.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. Yeah, I just like to be able to take a look at the report and appreciate the time.
I do too. Yeah.
All right. You know what, Sarah, my laptop went on the fritz here. Could you go ahead and read in the second one for us?
Sure. That's an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the replacement of certain water mains throughout the city of Akron as part of the water main replacement program and declaring an emergency.
Very good. Mr. Lovell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our annual program within the budget of our water bureau. So this legislation will we will replace a little over 10,000 feet of water main. These sections have really been prioritized by history of chronic breaking. So we've had water main sections that have 2 or 3 breaks on them in the last so many years. So we have prioritized them. We did apply to OPWC. We did receive a grant for $865,000 out of this $2.3 million total project. There's 11 streets that are affected by this that will get new water mains on them. Pretty much they're all over the city. One thing I can tell you, out of those 11 streets, 4 of those streets have water mains over 100 years old. So obviously our water mains are aging. I think I've told this council before that we have nearly 300 miles of water main that are over 100 years old. So we have an aging system. We're trying to update it as we can. And this is just one example that we will be bidding out soon.
Very good. Questions, comments? I'm curious, Chris, the ones that are over 100 years old, where are those at?
Well, I'll tell you, we have one on Boris Street that's 1914. We have one on Rothrock in your ward, it's 1919. We have one on Bina. Is it Bina Avenue off of Summit Lake Boulevard? That's 1916. We have another one. Let's see, what's the 4th one? The 4th one is on Ridge Street, which is 1915. That's an 8-inch.
Wow. So Rothrock, would that have been an Akron line originally, or was that a Kenmore line?
Well, that might have been a Kenmore line, Mike. The thing about Kenmore, it's kind of unique. We don't have a lot of lead services over there. You know, in our program we're doing this year, it didn't seem like there was a lot in Kenmore. I don't know if it's the age when they built that part of the city that they didn't use a lot of lead, but our lead program this year that we bid out it's pretty impressive. Not only did we get $1 million from the EPA to do this, we also got $1 million to go on the private property side. So we're going to do a lot of that in-house from the lawn strip out to the main in the street. And then we've hired a contractor to go from the lawn strip all the way to the water meter with a piece of copper and get rid of that, whether it's an unknown. We don't have much, we can't really just see a lot of lead on the private property. Most of it's all galvanized. So that we're starting on that too.
Okay, very good. Other questions or comments from committee members or council members? I'm looking around here. Sarah, help me if I'm missing anyone.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, then. Chris, consent work on this, or is there some time?
Consent's fine.
Okay, then. So I'm looking for a motion for consent.
So moved.
And
Second.
we have a second. All right, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, Karen, on that previous one, I know we chose to refer. Did I take a vote on that?
I wrote down 5-0.
Okay, okay. If you wrote it down.
Now you're gonna have me questioning it too. Do you want to take a vote to make
Yeah,
sure?
let's go ahead and back up. We had, there was a motion to refer that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. That was on our previous item. Yeah, in my mind, I said, oh, did we vote on that or not?
I think we did, but you're gonna have me questioning it now. So.
Okay, I don't think there's anything else to come before us, so we will adjourn. Thank you.
Our next committee meeting for the day is the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Those committee members are Freeman, Amobian, Malik, Baylor, and Lombardo. All committee members are present, so I'm ready whenever you are, Mr. Freeman.
All right, we'll call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Freeman,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Baylor,
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
All committee members are present.
All right, very good. All right, and if you could have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, please.
So move.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor? Aye.
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 Okay, very good. We have two items
Aye.
coming before us. The first is an ordinance amending under supplementing Title 9, Chapter 104, Income Tax Ordinance, Section 104.091, collection at source, withholding from qualifying wages of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Akron in order to align deadlines with those set forth in the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency. Who will be speaking for us today?
I will. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. This is just an update to our ordinance to make sure that we're aligning with the Ohio Revised Code. The state of Ohio passed House Bill 5 back in December 2014. At that time, they moved the quarterly filing deadline to the middle of the month. That was problematic for our small businesses. So that deadline was moved back to the end of the month in June of 2016 with Senate Bill 172. And we just need to update our ordinance to reflect the change that was made in June of 2016 at the state level. The Ohio Revised Code reflects that, and we've been following the Ohio Revised Code. We just want to make sure our ordinance aligns with the Ohio Revised Code and that the deadline is correct in our ordinance as well.
What was the original? Why did Columbus originally do that, Shelley?
It was part of, they did the holistic like income tax code changes, and that was part of it. And then, so they moved the deadline up 15 days, and our quarterly withholders tend to be your smaller businesses that don't have as much employee withholding. They're not filing on a monthly basis. So I think there was an outcry then from the business community, and the deadline was moved back to the end of the month, 2 years later. And I think this was just something that never got updated in our code. We've been enforcing that deadline, but I just want to update our code so that we match what's in the Ohio Revised Code.
Okay, great. Questions from the committee? Get around here. Comments from anyone else? All right. What would be your pleasure on this, Ms. Goodrich?
Consent is fine.
All right. For a motion.
Motion for consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
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 Okay, very good. Next, we have a resolution approving and confirming the appointment of Lauren Alexander Butterworth to the City of Akron Public Art Commission for a 3-year term expiring January 1st, 2024, and declaring an emergency. I see we have Ms. Butterworth with us. Please feel free to introduce yourself, say a few words for us.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on today. I was excited to be asked to be part of the commission. I'm a lifelong resident here in Akron. By day, I'm a realtor, and having something like this in place, this commission, I think is really important to the value of our properties and the value of our city. I think it'll really make a difference. And I'm excited to be on it. It's exciting. I could say exciting one more time. So thank you, Summer, for bringing me here today. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you very, very much. Summer, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Comments or questions from any committee members, or for that matter, any council members? Okay, I'm looking around. Summer, Lauren, thank you very, very much. And thanks for doing your part in making Akron a great place to live. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I can see that Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
All right, Councilman Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Ms. Butterworth for your upcoming service, but also for your service to the city thus far. You know, your as I'm sure has played a part in your selection. Your resume clearly shows that you really have not only been a lifelong Akronite, but someone who's dedicated to the community, to the art museum, to many other causes. So I'm sure we're gonna put your skills to good use. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I am also part of the Vacant Building Review Board, and I've been delighted to serve on that as well. It's been a very interesting road on that committee, so here to serve.
Would you like to define interesting as far as your work?
You know, it's a new commission or a new committee also, and I know growing up here, I mean, some of these buildings I've seen around for a long time, some especially in like the North Hill area where my parents grew up. So to see them being vacant for 20 plus years and then now having kind of a say in it and seeing how it's changing the neighborhoods has been interesting. And I think it's just another step of the revitalization, which I again think is a thrilling part of watching the city change over my almost 40 years.
Great. And to quote you, I'll say it's exciting.
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Would consent be okay for this, Shelley?
I think Summer's here on this one.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Hey, Summer, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry, what was the question?
I was actually asking Ms. Goodrich if consent would be okay.
Summer, are you fine with consent?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Agenda? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, Summer, would you like to add anything? I don't mean to ignore you here.
No, we're just excited to have Lauren. As you read, unfortunately, someone had to step down and we had to replace, and making sure that each ward is represented. We have representation, which is, pretty good for our 9 members. So we're excited for Lauren to get on board, and we're excited to have our first commission meeting on Wednesday.
Well, so you're having it on Wednesday. Well, maybe we want to go ahead and pass this tonight then.
Yes, please.
Okay, very good.
I'd like to make a motion.
I move approval.
Okay, have a motion for suspension of the rules, and then I think I had a second as well.
Second.
So all those in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, very good. Summer, thank you. Lauren, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. And I do not believe we have anything else coming before us, do we?
That's all we had.
Okay, then. We'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.
That is the end of today, so we're going to end the live stream.